All right, let's go back on the record. Both defendants are present, dressed in street clothes. The attorneys for the defendants are present. The attorneys for the state are present in this matter. We have a couple of issues to deal with prior to the jury coming in. Mr. Davis or Mr. Mosley, we have an issue that was brought up by Mr. Davis previously. It had to do not with the sequestration, but with some comments that may have been made, and also a motion for mistrial that I have heard. So who is going to be addressing that, Mr. Davis or Mr. Mosley? Okay, you just need to keep your voice up. You may want to hit that microphone in front of you there.
Your Honor, first of all, I want to say that it makes me to feel very uncomfortable speaking on this subject matter, because in 27 years of practicing law, I have never, ever heard of any counsel doing that to another counsel. First of all, I'd like to point out that it is a clear violation of the Florida Rules of Ethics 4-84D to criticize another counsel in that manner. But worse yet, Your Honor, I do not know what counsel was attempting to do in the restroom with talking to a prospective witness that was going to immediately take the stance to testify in this case. I can only think that to make those comments to a witness that you know is going to be a witness was intended to curry some kind of favor or influence the witness testimony, especially when counsel says to the witness that I believe my client has a chance to get off. I believe, Your Honor, at this point, with those comments made, it has created another sideshow in this case that affects Mr. Bessman Okafor's ability to get a fair trial. Clearly, the news media, in their right, is going to publish it. It's going to be all over the place, and we hope that the jurors are not listening to this and reading this stuff, but we have no guarantee of it. But this, Your Honor, this fault we can lie squarely on Mr. Clark's comments that shouldn't have ever been made by any professional in our profession. No bathroom conversations with any prospective witnesses should ever take place. I understand the rule that lawyers can talk to witnesses in the case, Your Honor, but no bathroom witness conversation should ever take place with a witness, and suggesting to that witness that another lawyer is either not prepared or not qualified to represent a client, and certainly not to suggest in an offhanded way that maybe you should try to convict one and not the other. That is my concern in this case, Your Honor, and because of that, I don't think that Mr. Bessman Okafor, at this point, is going to obtain a fair trial in this case, and I think we can lay that squarely on Mr. Clark's behavior in that bathroom. This all started, if you recall, Your Honor, with Mr. Clark's associate saying that someone had made a comment outside that violated the sequestration order. We thought it would stop there, but it opened up a can of worms, and now we know that this is much larger than Mr. Harrington having a comment with people who are associated with this case or who are going to testify, who had testified. But this was a lawyer who's trained in the rules of evidence and trained in the conduct that all lawyers in the state of Florida know. To go in the bathroom and have that kind of conversation, to use that kind of language, and then to suggest that his client should get off. Now, we can only speculate what Mr. Clark intended to do. It would probably be better to put him under oath and put him on the stand and ask him questions what he intended to do, or what his intent was. I do not know. I don't know if the court is intended to do that or not. But it's really disheartening for any lawyer to treat another lawyer like that in this state, even if you thought one of our own were less prepared than others. It's extremely disrespectful. It is extremely disrespectful to our profession, and I just don't understand how this could happen, and how somebody of Mr. Clark's stature would put himself in that position. And, Your Honor, all I can do at this point is just ask the court to consider granting a mistrial for Mr. Okafor, because he's not comfortable at this point because of this comment with Mr. Davis proceeding on.
The motion is a motion for mistrial.
Yes, sir.
The jury is not aware of any of this, will not be aware of any of this. All counsel know that. It will not be an issue to come up in testimony. So explain to the court where the need for a mistrial is in this matter with regard to this jury trial.
Your Honor, I understand what the court is saying. The court is saying that it's already given the jury...
No, I'm asking you to tell me where there is a problem with regard vis-a-vis the jury deciding this case.
Your Honor, because I believe this information that happened today, they're going to know about it. I understand...
How are they going to know about that, Mr. Mosley?
Your Honor, because I know you'd say that you tell them don't read the paper, don't look at the news, but I guarantee you, Your Honor, before we get home by 5 o'clock, this is going to be on the news. I guarantee you, tomorrow morning, before they leave and come to the courthouse, this is going to be in the paper. I guarantee you that. And for us not to acknowledge that would be greatly disingenuous. This is going to be all over the place.
Are you suggesting to the court that the court cannot rely on these 10 jurors to follow their oath as they have promised and sworn to do, to not read the papers, to not listen to the news, to not discuss this case?
No, sir, Your Honor. I'm not saying these jurors.
Then help me understand.
I'm saying that people who know these jurors, their family members, Your Honor, are watching televisions, are reading the newspaper. I'm not going to create any ethical violation by attacking this jury, by no means. I believe they want to do what's right. And I believe they could have done what's right, provided this didn't happen. But I don't live in a vacuum, Your Honor. I understand that we all have relatives. We have instructions, we have guidelines we want to live by. But people will come to you and say things all the time they shouldn't say to you. And I'm saying to you, Your Honor, I would bet you that somebody in that jury is going to hear about what happened here today, either through a relative or by just happen chance seeing a cover of a newspaper or something, or a glimpse of a television news reel tonight or something. This is deep. This cuts deep into Mr. Bessman Okafor's right to a fair trial.
All right, Mr. Malik, you are the state on this case. You're representing the state. The motion is a motion for mistrial. There's talk about ethics. There's talk about professionalism, but the issue is a motion for mistrial.
Judge, Mr. Okafor has been asking to delay this trial and ask for new counsel the morning of trial, so I don't doubt that he certainly will want a mistrial, but I don't think there's a legal basis for mistrial. There's no evidence that the jury has heard any of this conversation, whether it happened or not. We're on day 5 now. The court's reminded the jury every day before we go home not to look at the news, not to do any kind of research. Every morning when we come in, the court actually inquires again, has anybody heard anything or has anybody seen anything? These 10 jurors for the last 5 days have followed that. There's no reason to believe that they can't continue to follow that. And even if we had, for example, one jury accidentally sees it, we have 4 alternates. We have 10 jurors, Judge. So if that does happen, then certainly we can address it and use one of the alternates. There's no evidence at this point that the jury's heard that or influenced by that, even if that conversation did happen. So I don't think there's a basis for a mistrial at this point, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Clark, I'm going to ask for your comments, not with regard to the substance or procedure of happened, but directly only as to the motion for mistrial as it might affect your client.
I have no position.
Okay. With regard to any issues on ethics and any issues of professionalism, those are matters not before the court at this point and will not be addressed by the court at this time. I do not see a basis for a motion for mistrial. The jury has been out of the room when all of this happened, is unaware of it. Counsel are all aware that they are not to discuss this or bring this up in any manner in the form of testimony or examination of other witnesses in this matter. And as it goes right now, the jury has been instructed not to have any contact with the media, the news folks, to watch anything on this case if they follow their instructions, and they would not be aware of this. We have another issue that's come up. I need to see counsel at the bench, if you would, please. Okay. Mr. Malik, are you going to be ready to go forward?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you have your next witness ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, let's go ahead and bring our jury in. I need to make an inquiry of the jury. I believe we have sworn in this witness previously. Please be seated. Welcome back, folks. Thank you for coming back. I apologize. We're about 12, 13 minutes late getting you in here, but we appreciate your being on time. Let me ask you, has anybody contacted any of you or approached any of you about any issues concerning this case? If they have, please raise your hands. I don't see any hands. Has anybody conducted any research, gone on computers, cell phones, tablets, iPads, any of those electronic devices, seen anything on TV, newspapers, heard anything on the radio, or any other source or from any individual about any issue in this case, any of the parties in this case, any of the witnesses, or any of the attorneys? Please raise your hand if you have. Okay, I don't see any hands. And has anybody seen any of the other jurors conducting any research? All right, we're going to go ahead and continue on with your trial. Now, I know it is a little after 1:30. We have finished lunch, and I know that about an hour after lunch, everybody gets a little sleepy. If you get sleepy, don't be embarrassed. Raise your hand. Let us know you need a break a little bit early, and we'll do that to accommodate you. But we're going to go ahead and continue on with testimony in this matter. Mr. Malik, can we have your witness back on the stand, please?
Yes, Your Honor. Statement called William Harrington.
Yeah, I should make sure you swore him in actually before we had all the to-do. Sir, tell us your name once again, please.
William Harrington.
Okay, Mr. Harrington, I believe you were previously sworn. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right. What I'm going to need you to do is to lean into that microphone as you're doing right now and enunciate clearly. The jury needs to hear you, and everybody here needs to hear you. Mr. Malik, please go forward.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
How old are you, sir?
I am 20.
And do you currently work or do you go to school?
Yes, sir. I go to Valencia, and I am a server.
You said you're a server. Where are you a server?
Italian restaurant in Waterford Lakes.
Back on May 9th, 2012, were you a student? What were you doing?
Yes, sir. I was a student going to Sheeler with Brandon.
And what grade or what year were you in at Schuler back then?
12th grade.
Now, at the time, you were not living at 503 Bernardino Drive, correct?
No, sir.
You had been to that house before?
Yeah.
And you mentioned Brandon. How do you know Brandon?
I've known him probably before pre-K, and we both go to the same school, and he didn't have a license, so I drove him to and from school.
Okay. So on this particular day, at least in the morning, were you in school in the morning?
Yes, sir.
And what time did you guys get out of school?
We got out at 11:20, 11:30.
And did you drive Brandon home that day?
Yes, sir, I did.
What did you do when you got to Brandon's house?
Threw my backpack on the ground and sat on the couch.
And who else was there with you when you got to the house?
Brianna was sitting on the couch watching TV, and Brandon walked in with me, and Alex was sleeping in the back.
What were you guys doing at the house?
I was just watching Netflix, pretty much just flipping through movies. That's about it.
Did there come a point where something out of the ordinary happened?
I guess out of the ordinary was when Brandon mentioned that he saw a strange car keep going up and down the street.
Did you actually see the car, or just you remember Brandon?
I never saw the car.
What's the next thing that you remember happening?
Next thing I remember happening was a knock at the door, and Brandon went up to got it. And when I look out the door, I see Bessman over there, and I see Nolan over there standing at the front door.
Okay. Now, what room in the house are you in at this time?
I was in the living room, family room.
I'm showing you what's been previously marked States Exhibit 1. Photograph number 11. Do you recognize that room?
Yes, sir.
Is that the room that you were in?
That is the room I was in.
And do you remember which chair it was you were on in that room?
Yeah, the black sofa on the left.
Do you remember where Brianna was in the room?
The orange sofa out of the picture on the right.
And going back again, you heard the knock on the door. Brandon got up to answer the door. Could you hear what, if anything, was said by the people at the doorway?
They asked for Brianna, and we all looked around because, you know, we don't hang out with people like them. So we were wondering what, you know, they're doing, and we look at Brianna and we're like, you know who they are? And she said, said no. And they also asked, they asked for her by Brianna when her name is Brianna.
Okay. So the two people you saw there at the door, have you ever seen them before?
Never.
And so was Brandon still at the door at the time?
Yes, he was.
And was Brianna still on the chair, or was she over by the door?
She was still in the chair looking at Brandon.
What's the next thing you remember, the next thing that you saw happening?
Next thing I remember is both of them coming into the house, pulling the guns out of their waistband and telling all of us to get on the effing floor.
Now, you said you saw them. How many people did you see?
Just two, Nolan and Bernard.
Okay. And how far away from you were they when you saw them when they said get on the ground?
I was about 6 feet away, staring right at both of their faces.
And could you see what, if anything, they had in their hands?
They had nothing at their hands in the beginning until they pulled out their guns.
Did just one of them or both of them have guns?
Both of them did.
And how would you describe the guns? I mean, could you see the guns?
One was black and one had some chrome on it. I'm not really familiar with guns, so I can't give out a name.
And where were they? Did they just have the guns out, or were they pointing them somewhere?
They're pointing them at us, both of them.
Where were they in relation to the house when they were pointing the guns at you?
Right behind that sofa, pretty much. There's a couple of feet away from both of us, or all of us.
Okay. Were either of them wearing masks?
No, neither one of them.
And what time of day was this?
Probably about 12:30, 1.
How did you feel when they were pointing guns at you?
I felt like my life was put in someone else's hands. I had no control over what was going on.
What did you do when they told you to get on the ground?
I followed their orders and put my head on the ground and just stayed right there.
Who else was with you in the room at the time?
At the time, it was Brandon and Brianna.
And what did Brandon do?
Brandon put his head on the ground. We all three of us laid on the ground.
What's the next thing you remember these two people doing?
Yelling at Brianna, "Where's the stuff?" Telling her, tell us now, we won't hurt you, tell us where the stuff is, just kept going on and on.
Did you know what it was they were looking for?
I had no idea.
How long were they doing that?
Probably about a good 5 minutes.
And could you see where they were in relation to you at the time?
I could not exactly see. I could, see out of my periffs. That would be about it. But I could hear where they were. They did not stop talking.
Did they both stay in that room?
One of them did, and the other one went and searched throughout the house.
Could you see which one of them stayed in the room with you?
I'm not 100% sure who stayed in the room with us. I believe it was Bessman because I remember he put his feet right by my face, and I remember his Reeboks.
Did you know where the other person went?
I know they went, if you look in the picture on the right, there's a door that goes to 2 bedrooms, and that is the first place they went.
United States Exhibit 1, photograph number 9.
Yes, that would be the door.
That's the doorway?
Yes, sir.
And that's the doorway that goes to the bedrooms in the back?
Yes, sir.
And do you know how many bedrooms there are there?
Yes, there's 4.
Now, did you know that Alex was home at the time?
Sorry?
Did you know that Alex Zaldivar was there at the time?
We actually had no idea he was there. We thought he was at school.
Okay. So, in terms of the 2 individuals that came in, what happened next? Where did they go?
They went in here, and they started going through both rooms. And once they came back out, they grabbed Brianna, and they took Brianna into the room. If you walked in here and you took a left, it would be Brianna's room, and they took her in there. I couldn't really hear what was going on in there. I remember Brandon trying to poke his head up to see what's going on and what's going on with his sister, and
Right.
I believe it was Bessman over there. He kept telling him to put his head back on the ground before he pops off.
Okay. So in terms of the 2 individuals, did one of the individuals stay with you?
Yes, sir.
And could you see who it was or no?
I could not see their face on the ground, no.
How long was Brianna in the other room with the other person?
Maybe like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if that.
What's the next thing you remember when she came back out?
The next thing I remember would be, I don't know if they switched and Nolan started watching us or what, but next thing I remember is them going to get Alex, and they went back there and he said, yeah, I got another jit back here, and the guy with us said, is it a big jet or a little jet? And he said, it's a big jet. And he said, well, bring him out. And they brought him out. And then once they brought him out, he laid down on the ground, and I think that's about when they started tying us all up.
Okay. And could you see Alex when they brought him out?
I did see him. I saw his feet.
Okay.
Yes.
And you were still on the ground at this time when they brought him out?
Yes, sir.
And you said that they had Alex get on the ground as well?
Yes, sir.
Was Brianna back out with you guys at that point?
Yes, sir.
What's the next thing you remember happening after they brought Alex out?
The next thing I remember happening was them patting us all down, taking my wallet out of my pocket, my phone, my cigarettes, everything. And I'm guessing they did it to everybody else too.
Okay. What kind of phone did you have?
I had an iPhone 3GS.
Could you see what, if anything else, they might have had with them when they were leaving?
Yeah, they had a duffel bag and I believe 2 backpacks.
Okay. Did you know what was in the duffel bag or the backpacks?
I mean, once I put my head up, I saw that the Xbox was gone, laptops are gone, the Wii was gone, so I figured that was what was in the backpacks.
Okay. So at least in terms of what was in the house, all that stuff was in the house at the time before?
Yes, sir. We were watching Netflix off the Xbox.
And go ahead. We're at the point where Alex is brought back out and you're all on the ground. What's the next thing that happens?
They started tying us up, and they asked me about my car out front and whose car it was, and I told them it was my brother's. Actually, I told them it was their brother's, so they wouldn't, think I had the keys to it, because I didn't know if they were going to try and steal it or not.
Okay. In terms of things that were taken from you, what was taken from your pockets?
From my pockets, my credit card, debit card, my phone, and that was it.
You said they tied you up. What did they use to tie you up?
They tied my feet up with the Xbox controller wires, and they put Brianna's cuffs on my hands.
Okay, and I'm showing you, again, going back to State's Exhibit 1, photograph number 11.
And the wires right on the ground.
That was my next question. Can you see what they
Yeah.
used to tie you up with in this photo?
The wire that's kind of coming off the black sofa, that was right where I was.
Okay, and you mentioned some handcuffs too.
Yes, sir, they put handcuffs on me as well.
And what kind of handcuffs were they? Were they real handcuffs?
Thank God they weren't real handcuffs. They were, I guess, the Halloween cuffs.
Okay. Were they metal or plastic? Or
They were metal, but they're very, very easy to get out of.
After you're tied up, you said, could you see the other people tied up as well?
Yes, I could. Brandon's feet were right at my face, and out of my purse I could see Brianna over there. Alex was the only one I couldn't see.
What's the next thing you remember? Did the two individuals stay at that point?
The next thing I remember was them talking, pretty much grabbing all the stuff, putting everything in bags. One of them left to go get the car, while one of them stayed at the door.
Okay. Could you see where they went, or when they got out of the house, could you see where they went?
I believe they took a right.
How long were they there after they tied you up?
After they tied me up? I think like 10 minutes, if that.
At some point, they both left the house then?
Yes, sir.
And did you stay where you were at that point, or how long did you wait after they left the house?
Well, they left the door open, I guess, so we wouldn't know when they left, so we wouldn't know when it's okay to get up, and we were probably on the ground for like another 2 minutes until we realized they were gone, and I took my handcuffs off, and I went over to untie Brandon, and then I went over to untie Alex, and Brandon untied his sister, and we all ran over to the neighbors.
Okay. So in terms of getting out, you didn't spend a lot of time having to get out of the handcuffs or anything?
Absolutely not.
And then you said you went over to the neighbors, the next door neighbors.
Yes, sir.
What happened when you got to the neighbor's house?
Once we got to the neighbor's house, we told them what just happened. We just got robbed and at gunpoint, and we needed to call the police because they took all our phones. So I believe Brianna had the phone, and she called the police. And I mean, within like 5 minutes, police were there.
And the police arrived. Did you basically tell the police what happened?
I told the police what happened, but more importantly, I knew that I had a GPS locating monitor on my phone, so I was more worried about, them trying to find my phone than, to tell them what happened, because I can tell them what happened whenever.
Okay. And can you explain that a little bit? What's the thing that you have on your phone?
It's actually an app. If you have an iPhone, it's called Find My iPhone, and you plug in your Apple ID and your password, and you can, it'll show your iPhone on a map and where it is. So if you ever lose it, it's a great app. Or if some people steal it, it's also a great app.
Okay. And so you're able to locate where your iPhone is.
Yeah, pinpoint the location.
And what do you need to use to be able to locate your iPhone?
Just another iPhone.
And when the police arrived, did you indicate that to them?
Yeah, I did. No one listened to me at first, but it took about 15, 20 minutes. And then I wish I could remember the officer's name, but I can't. But he came over and said, "Oh, I have one." I plugged my information up, and boom, right, pinpoint the house.
Okay. And so another officer was doing that with you, and you showed him, and the location came up.
Yes, sir.
At some point after that, do you remember being taken to another location to look at some individuals?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember where you were taken?
Yes, sir, at church.
Okay. Were you taken there all together as a group, or were you taken there separately?
2 cars with 2 people in there.
Okay. And do you remember being asked to look at 2 different people at that time?
Well, once we got to the church, they took us separately to their house to identify them.
Okay, so you got to the church, you said groups of 2, but then when they asked you to look at some people,
Yes.
you were by yourself?
Yes, sir. It was just me and Barish.
And do you remember what, if anything, you were told about the people that you were looking at?
No, they said we, found some people. Can you tell us if this is them or not?
And do you remember who the first person was that you looked at?
I'm pretty sure the first person they showed me was Bessman, and he was still in the same exact clothes, same shoes, same everything.
Okay. And what, in terms of, did you have an opportunity to see his face prior to that?
Oh, yes, sir. When they opened the door, I was about 5 feet away, and, I looked at him for a solid minute,
What, if anything, stood out in terms of his face?
His little fashion thing he's got going on his eyebrow.
Okay. By fashion thing, what is it? With
He had slits, yeah.
And do you remember how sure you were that that was the person that you had seen previously?
I was 100% on him.
Now, what about after that? Were you shown the two people together, or were you asked to look at somebody else separately?
They were separate.
Now, the second individual that you were shown, did you remember that person?
Yes, sir. I remembered him by his cornrows, very distinctive. And besides that, he already changed his clothes, so he was in regular clothes now.
Okay. Let me ask you, you said the cornrows. Do you remember how certain you were that that was the other person you saw?
On him, I was about 60%.
And in terms of the percentages, were you asked to give percentages, or what made you decide to do it that way?
I believe we were asked to give percentages.
Okay. I'm showing you first what's marked as State's Exhibit A for identification purposes. As you take a look at that photo. Do you recognize the person in that photo?
Yes, I do recognize him.
Who is the person in that photo?
The person in that photo is Bessman Okafor, right over there.
Okay. And which person was that in terms of how sure you were of who it was?
I was 100% on him.
And I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit B. Let's take a look at that photo. You recognize the person in that photo?
Yes, sir.
And who do you recognize the person in that photo to be?
I recognize him to be Nolan Bernard over there.
Okay. And again, that was the individual that, in terms of percentages, what?
I was 60%.
And again, what stood out in your mind in terms of your ability to recognize him?
Right now?
At the time?
At the time, it was his cornrows.
Now, at some point after that, do you remember going down to the police station either the next day or a couple days after that?
Yes, sir.
And were you asked to kind of identify some things, or if you recognize some things?
Yeah.
Show you. This is State's Exhibit 2. And this would be photograph number 6. Do you recognize the items in that photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and specifically, which items do you recognize?
We have Alex's onesie ID, Alex's sunglasses, Brianna's sunglasses, Brianna's flask, my phone, Brandon Campus's phone, Alex's phone, and I think that other phone is Brandon's backup phone. we have, I believe, Brianna's iPod right there.
Okay. In terms of your phone, is that the iPhone in that photograph that you had?
I'm sorry?
Is your iPhone in this photograph?
Yes, sir. All the way on the left.
On the left. Okay. And that's the phone that has the tracking device on it?
Yeah, yes, sir. But actually, every iPhone has it.
You mentioned before some laptops as well. Did you know whose laptops they were?
Brianna's, and I think 2 of them were Alex's, and 1 of them was Remington's.
Okay. I'm showing you this photograph, again, this is State's Exhibit 2, photograph number 7. Do you recognize those items?
Yes, sir.
And what do you recognize those to be?
The the spy was Brianna's laptop, I believe, and the little one was Alex's laptop, and below that I think was also his laptop, and the one to the left, the bottom left, would be Remington's laptop.
Okay. And again, those are items that were in the house prior to any of this happening?
Yes, sir.
You mentioned an Xbox as well. You said that was attached to the TV in that front room prior to this happening?
Yes, sir. It was.
Was it still there after the 2 individuals left the house?
It was not there afterwards.
I'm showing you what's been marked, again, as State's Exhibit 2, photograph number 12. Do you recognize that?
Yes, sir. That is Brandon's console and Brandon's game and his controllers.
Okay. And again, were those the items that were in the house prior to this?
Yes, sir, they were.
Just one moment. What do you need to do to be able to locate her? What do you need to be able to do to put it in?
Well, to say my iPhone is over there and I don't have it and I can't find it, I need to grab somebody else's iPhone and download the Find My iPhone app, and then I plug in my Apple ID, my password, and then it pinpoints your location right on a GPS,
Okay. So when the officer was doing that with his iPhone, you actually put that information into his iPhone,
Yes, sir.
and that's how you were able to locate where your iPhone was.
Yes, sir.
At any time, did you give anybody permission to take your iPhone
I did not give anybody permission to take my iPhone
or take any of your other stuff?
or take any of my other stuff or go through my pockets.
Thank you, sir. No further questions, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Mosley or Mr. Davis?
All right, thank you, Your Honor. I want to get state's deposit.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Harrington, you said on the date of May 9th, 2012, I believe you and Mr. Campos were sitting close to one another in the family room or living room?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And as you look here at the photo that you can see, is there something, Your Honor, that he might be able to use to point to?
Actually, he can. There's a way he can write on the screen, although you may be getting a little technical for me to show you. Let me try and
Me
get
too.
down.
Can you guys see the thing moving?
Just so that he, oh, is that how you do
You
it?
see the red dots?
Okay. Oh, okay, well, I can too.
And there's a clear button there, too.
Thank you. Okay, I guess you see the little pencil there, correct?
Yes, sir, I do.
Okay. I guess you know how to work this stuff, correct?
I'm a kid.
All right. All right. Could you show me approximately, or to precisely, quite frankly, where you and Mr. Campos were sitting in that room when the incident happened?
I was on that, and Brandon was on this seat.
Okay. All right. So Mr. Campos is sitting directly in front of it, and you're kind of sitting, for lack of better terms, to the left of the TV screen,
Yes, sir.
if you were looking at this way.
Yes, sir.
So you're sitting there, well, I guess to the back of this picture, because I've been looking to see if there are any exhibits that would show the window that you're talking about, but to the back of this, there apparently is a
Yes, sir.
front house window.
You could probably get that window in the front house picture.
But there is none from the inside that we can see out. It's just this, correct? And I'll put it.
I guess, I don't really know.
In other words, unfortunately, we can't see from the inside out. Correct?
I'm sorry?
Unfortunately, we can't see from the inside out.
Yes, there are no pictures taken
Right.
from inside.
Okay, I'm going to put the other one back. So you guys are sitting there watching movies, and you cannot see the reflection on the television, is that correct?
That's correct.
And although you can't see the reflection on the television, I believe you said that Mr. Campos said he could see it, and that's how you knew about the car driving back and forth, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And do you recall whether or not after the incident happened, when the police came, whether or not you gave a written statement?
I believe I did.
Okay.
That's okay. Take your time, sir.
Okay, Your Honor, I have, let's see here. It'll be Exhibit E.
Okay.
May I approach?
You may. Opposing counsel has seen it.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
All right, Mr. Harrington, you do recall writing that statement, is that correct?
Correct.
That is your handwriting, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've obviously reviewed it. You see that on this statement, you identified a subject with cornrows, correct?
I think I have the wrong one.
I'm sorry?
This one doesn't,
Okay,
say.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, I'm sorry. You see, you did not identify any of the suspects.
I was not told to.
Okay. But when you were writing, it was shortly after the incident, is that correct?
Very shortly. I was, yes.
And when they asked you to write the statement, you obviously obliged, but you omitted that, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
I said, when the police asked you to write the statement, you obliged, but you admitted that information.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, the next exhibit, Your Honor, is identified as F.
Okay, thank you, sir.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes, sir. Counsel knows. Mr. Clark knows which one you're talking about, too?
Okay. And that is your statement?
Correct.
And that is your handwriting?
Correct.
And that was given to the police subsequent to the show-up identification. Is that correct?
Correct.
And on that statement, you identified one person with cornrows. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And earlier in your testimony, you identified my client by way of slashes in the eyebrow, correct?
Slashes and the same exact clothes
Well-
he was wearing.
I'd ask the court to please instruct the witness to please answer yes or no to the question, Your Honor, so that If he needs rehabilitation, the state can do it.
The question, the way it was asked, Mr. Davis, he may not have been able to answer it yes or no. I'm going to let the answer stand at this point.
But you do not see that type of identification on this, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
You do not see that type of detailed identification on this document?
About his clothes?
No, sir.
I do.
About-
About his eyebrow?
That is correct.
You are correct.
And, Mr. Harrington, you recall giving a deposition on November 5th, 2012, correct?
Correct.
Okay, Your Honor, may I have a moment just to...
You may.
Your Honor, I have Exhibit G,
Okay?
and may I approach the witness?
Yes, sir, you may.
Exhibit G is the deposition from November 5th. And
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
I'm just going through. I'm not sure if I have a copy or not. I'm not sure if I have a copy of that one. I don't think I do.
Okay, Mr. Harrington, I would like for you to turn to page 6 of 17, beginning with line 21.
Yes, sir.
Which goes over to page 7 of 17, which ends with line 21.
Sir, if you'd take a minute,
Okay.
read that to
And
yourself.
read that to yourself,
Just
please.
quietly, and then look up when you're done.
Yes, sir.
Okay, starting on page 6, line 21, flipping the page, going over to page 7, reading down to line 21. If you need to read before or after that to put it in context, you're welcome to do so.
Go ahead, sir.
All righty. Beginning with line 21, I'll read the question. Can you describe both of them for me? And your answer was? On line 22.
Black.
Question, light skin, dark skin?
Dark.
Question, both of them?
Yes. Well, no. One was, I'd say, a little lighter than the other.
Well, okay, then your answer was?
one had cornrows.
And the question was, I'm going to stop you, I don't mean to nitpick, but I want to get all the details. When you said one was lighter than the other, was one light-skinned and one was dark-skinned, or both were dark-skinned? One was just a little lighter but the same, then there was apparently some inaudible coughing, and your answer was?
One was dark-skinned and the other was lighter, a little lighter than the dark-skinned one.
Question. But would you put him on the scale of light-skinned to dark-skinned? Would you say he was still dark-skinned but a little lighter, or was he actually light-skinned? Your answer was?
I mean, he was not light-skinned.
Question, okay. Answer?
He was just lighter than...
Question, the other one?
Yeah.
Question, okay, I'm trying to clarify. Go ahead. You were saying something about cornrows.
Has hair and cornrows.
Question, was that the lighter skinned one or the darker skinned one?
That was the darker.
Okay.
Judge, can we approach?
I'm sorry?
Can we approach? I'm going to object.
Do you have an objection?
Yes, sir.
Excuse us, sir, we'll be right with you. It's not truly impeachment, but I am going to let it go at this point, so the objection's overruled.
I think we stopped at line 17, Your Honor.
I think you did.
Mr. Harrington, can you read line 17?
Has hair and cornrows.
Question, what was the lighter, strike that. Question, was that the lighter skinned one or the darker skinned one?
That was the darker skinned.
Question, okay.
The other one had just regular poofy hair.
All right, thank you. Mr. Harrington, you previously stated that you came to this house quite frequently because you didn't live there, correct?
It was not because I came there quite frequently, yes.
Okay. You did not live there, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you came there often because those were your friends, correct?
Correct.
And you, I believe you said that you knew Mr. Campos since you guys were like babies or something.
Pretty
To
much,
that
yes.
effect.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you and Mr. Campos go to school all throughout school? I mean, were you always with each other in school, no matter what
sir.
school?
No, sir.
Okay.
He left my elementary school for a little bit, and then we went to the same middle school, and then we went to different high schools, and then we ended up going to Sheeler together.
Okay. Even when you were away from each other in school, would you still see each other and hang out?
Kinda, not really until high school.
Okay. In high school, you came back together.
Yes.
And isn't it true that you and Mr. Campos smoke marijuana together?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Thank you.
No more questions, Your Honor.
Let's make sure, Mr. Clark, I want to just get these exhibits back on the table, and then we'll be... Do you need any of those overhead projectors, Mr. Clark, any of those photographs? All right, thank you. Mr. Clark, please proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
All right, so these guys come to the door. Y'all are just kind of hanging out, watching Netflix, having a regular old day. Guys come to the door, right?
Correct.
They come in, they got guns, and you see them. You're about 6 feet away, you said, right?
Correct.
And you're staring at both of their faces.
Yes, sir.
It's the middle afternoon. It's not like nighttime. It's not dark, right?
Correct.
All right. And you end up getting put on the ground face down, and at some point, you're not sure who, but somebody's foot is next to your head, basically, and you see these black Reeboks.
Yes, sir.
So you're not far away at this point, you're however far, what, foot or two?
Inches.
Inches. So you can see it says Reebok,
Yes, sir.
and they're black shoes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, all right, so that happens. The guys ransack the house. They steal the stuff. One of the things they stole was your credit card, right?
Debit. Yes.
Okay, is it like a debit credit card?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay. And you never got that back?
I never did. I just canceled it and got a new one.
Okay. Anything else that you had that was taken that wasn't returned?
That was not returned?
Right.
No, sir.
Okay. All right, so a little bit later on, those guys leave. The police come. You talk to them. You don't really give them much of a description at the beginning. Like, you were just asked about your first statement. You don't really give much of a description.
Yes,
but
sir.
then they take you a little while later to do a show-up, right?
Yes, sir.
And they drive you over, and they've got people in handcuffs, I guess, in the backs of cars, right?
Yes.
And they pull somebody out of the car and have you look at them and say whether or not that's the person, right?
Yes.
Like on the way over, they say, hey, we caught some people. Tell us if these are the guys, like that, right?
Kind of, yes.
Okay. So you get there, and I think you said it was Bessman, Mr. Okafor, that they pull out first, right?
Yes.
And you look at him, and like you just said a minute ago, you see he's wearing the same clothes, same shoes, same slashes and eyebrows, same everything.
Yes, sir.
And you say, that's him, 100%.
Yes, sir.
And there's nothing higher than 100%, right?
Correct. 110.
I mean, like if I go look at that Purell over there, that hand sanitizer on the clerk's bench, even that says 99.99%.
Yes, sir.
Because they're leaving us, just in case, a little bit of leeway. 100% is 100%.
I was 100%.
So you were, obviously you're a stressful situation, right?
Very stressful.
But even in that situation, you were able to be sure, 100% sure that this was the guy.
Yes, sir.
So then they pull out the second guy, that's Mr. Bernard, right?
Yep.
And they pull him out, and now what you said, I think, is that he had changed his clothes.
He was in regular street clothes, yes.
So he wasn't wearing anything like he had been wearing previously.
You are correct.
All right. So whatever outfit he had on before, this was a completely new outfit, and that was why, I guess that's why you told us that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty good.
So he's wearing some completely new outfit, and you said that you remembered him by the corners, right?
Yes, sir.
And you said that you were 60% sure on it.
I did.
I have no further questions.
Redirect.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Mr. Harrington, again, Mr. Davis was asking you about some statements that you'd written to the police. Do you still have those up here?
Yes, sir. They're right here.
I think the first one he asked you about looks like Defense Exhibit E. And just You remember at what point, one point it was you made that statement?
I'm sorry?
Do you remember at what point in time it was when you made that statement?
This statement?
Yes, sir.
About 20 minutes after the robbery.
Okay, so had you been asked to identify anybody or look at anybody at that point?
I was not.
And then I think Mr. Davis showed you Exhibit F,
Yes, sir.
the next one. And he said that, and he asked you if you made any statements about the description of the shaved eyebrows in that statement.
It's not in there.
Okay, but do you remember that, as you sit here today, do you
yes,
remember
sir, I do
that
remember
description?
It. Yes,
Okay.
I remember other things too. I didn't put in there, unfortunately.
Okay, and then I think Mr. Davis asked you about a deposition, and he only showed you a portion of the deposition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he stopped you at page... Yeah, I'm looking at, again, I'm showing you Defense Exhibit G. He stopped you at page 6. I'm going to ask you to take a look at page 8. You guys have copies? Or? Page 8, I'm showing you line. Just read lines 5 through 11. 5 through 11 for a second. Just to yourself, don't read it out loud. Okay. And then the question was, this. You remember this was a deposition that was done back on November 5th, 2012, right?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember during the deposition, given the description of the shaved eyebrow?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And so you remembered at the time of the deposition that that was a description of the other individual?
Yeah.
And again, that individual was it Mr. Bernard or Mr. Okafor?
With the eyebrow?
Yes, sir.
That was Bessman.
Thank you, sir. Nothing further.
Okay. Sir, I'm going to go ahead and have you step down, if you would, please. Please be careful on that step back there. Mr. Malik, who will be your next witness?
Dewey Mullen.
Okay. You could call him, please. Can you break? Yes, we can. We were within 15 minutes of one, but we'll take it now.
Probably a good time.
All right, folks. We're going to go ahead and take a break, about a 15-minute break. It's really our mid-afternoon break at this point. Please do not discuss the case. Do not do any research. I know, you could say this better than I can now. And leave your pads on your chairs, please. Good time for you guys to go take a break, too. Oh, you don't ever need one. She just stays. It's not human. You're okay? You're all set? Okay. Is Mr. Mosley coming back? You want us to wait for him? No. Are you sure? Yes. Okay. All right, we've got everybody back in the courtroom. All right, let's go ahead and bring our jury back in, please.
Jury entering.
Did you get different headphones? Did you ever get this figured out? Good. Okay. Please be seated. Mr. Mallett, call your next witness.
State would call Dewey Mullen.
Dewey Mullen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Please solemnly swear the testimony you shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God.
You'd have a seat up here. Be careful, those chairs are not real large. You have some space over here if you need it for your file too. There's
Oh, thank you,
shelf
sir.
there for you. Thank you for joining us. What I'm going to ask you to do is a couple of things for me. That chair is, of course, bolted to the ground, so you can't pull it forward. The microphone does move up and down. You may want to bring it up a little bit, but it's not the most sensitive mic in the world, so you might need to lean into it a little bit. If you would introduce yourself to the jury and spell your first name and your last name for the court reporter, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Corporal Dewey L. Mullen. That's D-E-W-E-Y-M-U-L-L-A-N.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Where are you employed?
Ocoee Police Department.
How long have you been with the Ocoee Police Department?
Going on 8 years.
And you said, I think you said previously you're a corporal with the Ocoee Police Department?
Yes, sir, I am.
Do you have a specific assignment or detail with the Ocoee Police Department?
Road patrol, sir.
And is it a specific area in Ocoee or just generally Ocoee?
General of Ocoee.
Back on May 9th, 2012, did you have that same position?
Yes, sir.
And what shift were you working? Were you working days, nights?
I was an officer assigned to Sergeant Bob Rivera's squad, Echo Squad. We worked 1 in the afternoon until 11 at night.
Move that microphone over a little more in front of you, if you would, please. Thank you.
Okay, and I think you said you were road patrol at that time as well.
Yes, sir.
And did you drive a marked patrol vehicle?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did there come a time on May 9th, 2012, you became involved or responded to 503 Bernardino Drive?
Yes, sir.
And do you remember what the nature of the call was or why you were responding there?
For reported home invasion robbery.
And do you remember how long it took you to arrive approximately from wherever you were?
Approximately 5 to 8 minutes.
And you did arrive at that location?
Yes, sir, I did. I was
And do you
one of the
remember
first responders.
Do you remember roughly what time it was you arrived there?
Approximately 1:38, 1:40.
And were there other units there when you arrived, or were you the first person there?
I believe Officer Sarah Hampton was there and another officer was there.
Okay. What observations did you first make when you arrived at that location?
I came to the scene. Officers, I believe 2 other officers were already on scene. The victims were all outside and they were talking to the officers.
Okay. Without saying anything that was said, did you have the opportunity to see these people?
Yes, sir.
All right. And how did they appear to you, again, without saying what they said? How did they appear to you?
Disheveled, scared, distraught, excited.
And did you specifically have the opportunity to talk to them, or did one of the other officers speak to them about what happened?
One of the other officers was speaking to them about what happened. Officer, I believe it was Athern.
Okay. And was information then later on relayed to you in terms of what happened?
Yes.
Did you receive a description or any kind of information about the suspects?
Yes, I did.
And do you recall what the description was? What
Yes,
information you had?
2 black male suspects with masks, pistols, came into the house, robbed them, left the scene in a purple sedan car with a distinctive pattern on the side of the car.
Okay. And what did you do with that information?
We put a bolo out for the vehicle and the suspects.
Okay. Did you have any information about any items that had been taken from the individuals at the time?
Yes. One of the victims, a young man by the name of William, said they stole my iPhone, and I have an app on my iPhone, Find My iPhone. I said, well, I have an iPhone, I have the same app. I can find it.
Okay. And so you're familiar with an application on the iPhone?
Yes.
All right, and basically, what does it do?
It finds a missing Apple product, iPhone, iPad.
And so that this person, William, indicated to you that he had that on his phone.
Yes.
And what did you do with that information, or what did you do?
I took William's name, his username and password, plugged it into my phone, and I was able to get a GPS track on where William's phone was at the time. Real time. Right.
Okay.
Right where it was at that moment.
Let me do it this way. I approach the witness, Judge.
You may.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit D, and ask you to take a look at those.
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those photos?
Yes, I do.
What do you recognize those photos to be?
These photos are screenshots from the front of my phone.
Okay. And do they fairly and accurately depict the screenshots from your phone on that particular day?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, I'm moving to Evidence Exhibit D at this time.
What is the exhibit letter?
It's D.
D? Okay. Mr. Davis, any objection? No objection. Mr. Clark? No objection. All right, Exhibit D will be moved in as the next numbered exhibit.
Number 4.
Number 4, thank you.
May I publish it this time, Your Honor?
You wish to publish it?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, if you would. If you could hand it to the deputy, and the deputy would give it to the first juror.
I'm just going to publish it on here.
On here? Okay, that's fine.
Corporal Mullen, I'm going to ask you to look at the screen in front of you. I'm showing you what's now in evidence as State's Exhibit 4, and this would be page 4. And sir, what is this we're looking at?
This is a location that was given to me through my phone. I took a picture of it.
Okay, is this the actual photo that you took with your phone?
Yes.
And this is after you had plugged information that Will Herring